Welcome to the first of the video mixing lectures here. I'm going to try to break these up into sections. First, let's just briefly look at the instructions, and these instructions are subject to change compared to what's on this video, but basically we had the intro. Please read through all this. And let's go right to the requirements. So far in this session that I'm going to show you, I've already have established the subgroups. I've already played with the arrangements. We've covered subgrouping and vocal flying several times so far this month, so I'm not really going over this again. If you're having problems, please contact me and we can work on this. But with the arrangement, you're going to have to fly vocals. When you open up the session, you only have a pre-chorus 1 and a chorus 1, and you're going to have to fly those sections and make them work in time, in sync to the second pre-chorus as well as chorus 2 and 3. So just follow those location markers in the session. Those are going to tell you where to drop those tracks. So it has to be all the vocals. So let's just look at what I ended up with. So, I mean, everything except for this ad-lib track down here, do not fly that to the other sections. We'll talk about the ad-libs in a second. But basically, you need to fly your all your backgrounds and your lead chorus vocals to, so like I said, you got pre-chorus 1 here, chorus 1, we need to fly that over to pre-chorus 2 and chorus 2, as well as chorus 3 over here needs just the chorus vocals. So probably create that edit group like we've learned from the other flying experiences we've had, and just let me know if you're having any trouble with this. Otherwise, what else did I skip over? So I created my subgroups, I did my arrangement. The ad-libs, let's talk about those. So I want you to work on playing with the arrangement. You don't always have to use everything that's contained in a session. So I asked you to go through the ad-libs here and use them sparingly, I think is the wording. Let's see. Do not use every ad-lib recorded included in your mix. Keep the ad-libs sparse until the bridge. So I really just kind of want you to build it up. And if you notice what I did, you don't have to do it exactly like I did. I use a couple right in the intro. I pepper a couple in the first pre-chorus. There's a couple more that pop up into the second verse, so I slowly build it, and I kind of keep it out of quite a bit of the second chorus, but I chose a line here and there that I liked what he did. I think it fit in the music, so I'm just leaving it up to you guys to arrange the ad-lib track how you see fit. And then it's going to be featured, of course, once we get to the bridge. So we had these new bridge vocals. You worked on this in the other Melodyne project. So here I'm leaving it up to you what to do with these backgrounds and the lead here. You don't have to use every single one of them, but there are some requirements, and we'll cover those in a second. So let's look. The music stems too. With the music, I'm not really focusing so much on the music mix. What I'm really focusing on is your balance, lead vocal to the music track, the music stems, lead vocal balance compared to backgrounds, overall tone, how it fits in the mix. So I am going to kind of focus more on the vocals in general, but if you want to play around with the music tracks, you're more than welcome to, but make sure you're using proper gain staging. If you're adding gain, you better be taking gain away somewhere so we're not overloading tracks. If you want to mute stuff out, you want to affect it in any way, I'm up for that. I want you guys to wow me with the mix. Let's use all your skills here that you learned along the way in the course of your degree, and let's apply them to this project here. So looking over what else I got going on here, I've subgrouped everything. Like I said, it's according to color code. So you end up with, I believe, 4 subgroups down here. I got my instrumental, my LV sub, a background sub, and then a sub track for all these bridge vocals that occur here in the bridge. I'm also asking you to make that mix aux like we have in other sessions. So if I select all my sub tracks, I'll go ahead and go to the bottom one here, go to new track, create that mix aux. Always solo safe your auxes. So now my entire mix is going through this mix aux. If we look at my meters, let's take a look at my gain staging, because that's really kind of where I want to pick up. So talking about the balance, first sentence here, proper gain staging. We've talked about this since the first week. I do not want to see any overloads at any track level. You know, none of your audio tracks should be clipping pre or post fader. None of your inserts. When we get down to the subgroups, another gain stage here, I want to make sure you're leaving headroom within each of those submixes. And then finally, your mix aux, master aux should have some headroom. If you guys remember way back to the first week, I showed you that we can check the peak level. If I go ahead and look at each of my subs, I'm going to command click each sub to show the peak level. Okay. So we're looking at peaks now. If I go to a louder part of the song, how about, I know this line where we got all the backgrounds going.
You say it feels like we're in love, but that's not right. That's not right.
So there's a point where all the background tracks jumped in. Looks like I peaked about minus 2.3. My subs, how do we doing on my subs? Nothing on the bridge because nothing played. Minus 9 on the BG sub, minus 12 here. Instrumentals at minus 2.8. So the instrumental and the overall level is a touch hot the way I've got it right now. I would like you guys to try to leave, when you first start out mixing, try to leave like 3-4 dB at least of headroom in your mix aux and your subs. Otherwise, we might paint ourselves into a corner. So one little trick I will show you here is, here, I'll make these small so we can kind of see everything. That's Option Command M to go between small and wide mix auxes, or I'm sorry, tracks in your mix window. Okay, so if I turn my all group on, I can just simply bring this whole mix down. I have not automated anything, so that's a beautiful thing. So if I go ahead, let's just say hit the all on. If I look at my kick drum, I'm going to bring this down. I'm going to bring this down just like a dB. So 8.5. There we go. I just brought it down dB and a half. Turn your all group off. What I am going to do is come over back here to my master fader, leave that set to 0. That does bump down my auxes a little bit. I could reset those to 0 if I wanted to. I'm just looking to get a little more less gain out of the entire mix while preserving the balance. So again, if we listen from this loud section.
You say it feels like we're...
And how about we reset all the peaks? I think if you just do an option click, there we go, reset all our peaks there. Let's go ahead and play it in again.
You say it feels like we're in love, but that's not right. That's not.
So bringing all those tracks down a dB across the board, I went from a peak of what it was about -3 down to -7. So that's quite a bit. So what I think I'm going to go do back again is I am going to zero out my sub. Oh yeah, I didn't bring this mix aux up either. That was probably part of the problem. Make sure your all groups off when you hit this option. Okay. Now we should be seeing a little more gain.
You say it feels like we're in love, but that's not right. That's not right.
Okay, so about -5 on a peak. That's a good place to be. I'd say anywhere, try to get your highest peak of your initial mix around -6, -4, somewhere where you can just have some headroom. So later on, if we are adding gain with the output of a compressor, or we're EQing, we're adding gain that way, distorting, we want to have headroom at all the different gain stages. So that's definitely the first thing you should address in your mix. Let's get this right. Okay, so my gain staging is looking pretty good. My instrument sub, yeah, that's down to -4.2 as well. So I think we're good. Let's go to the next step. Clips, we're good on that. We will tweak the balance. I'll work on that a little more as we go. Panning, okay, now you don't, again, have to pan exactly how I'm panning. I'm leaving all the stems stereo because that makes sense, because these were pre-mixed onto tracks, so do leave those stereo. If you want to do a weird effect where you pan something one side or another, for an instance, that's cool with me, but in general, just stereo panning across the instrument tracks is going to be fine. I'm going pretty traditional here. I got my lead vocal straight up the center. These lead vocal chorus tracks, I do have those coming in stereo. Let's look at those real quick. So these guys I do have full stereo. We'll address that when we get to really balancing the different sections here. And then from there, the backgrounds, I think I went pretty hard left and right with most of them. These lower ones, let's see, right here. Because they're bassier, because they are lower tracks, I kind of went a little more center with those. Let's find those real quick. Right down there.
It's not about you.
So I kept those tucked in a little more to the center because they are taking up a bit more of the low frequencies. We can play with spreading those out later if we want. Otherwise, all the high harms, everything else went pretty hard left and right on the panning. When we get into the bridge, that's going to be a whole nother story, and we can play with those a little bit further into the video. So do think about your panning. What's most interesting to you? What sounds the best? You could automate panning if you want to get into that as well later into the mix. Okay, jumping ahead. Here's what I kind of want to dig into is these next three, talking about dynamics, tone, time-based effects, and this is probably where I'll break it up a little bit. So let's go ahead and pause right here, and we'll pick up on the next video doing the dynamics.